We'll give it another minute, Mukesh, before we start. I see people still joining in.
Hi, Anshuman.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Subha. Thanks for joining in. Hema, since Aaron has to leave 5 minutes early, do you want to start now? Let people joining in. Yeah, just give me a second. Let me hit the record button. Yeah.
All right. I see the recording has started. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in today into the next SIG forum. Today, we have a very unique forum today where we have Peter and Aaron who have joined us today for an Ask Me Anything session rather. This forum really, we try to get everyone together and get SIG teams together. So I request I mean, there were already questions that most of you have asked while submitting in for the registration. So we will start with those questions. But if you do have any further questions to ask, please do enter it into the chat window and we'll try to address those as well. So over to you, Aaron and Peter, for a quick introduction, and then we will begin. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah, and thank you everybody for joining us this morning. My name is Aaron Green, and I have the real privilege to lead the SAP Successfactors and Human Experience Management organization across Asia Pacific and Japan. I also just want to acknowledge all of you for joining today. I know that it's a really difficult and trying time in India, and SAP stands with you and with all of your families through this really difficult time. So again, thank you for joining us today. I would like to ask my colleague, Peter Soloway, to introduce himself as well.
Folks, Peter Soloway here. I lead our industry and customer advisory consultants. So we look after the SuccessFactors consultants here in APJ, and really great to be joining you over the next hour. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for those. So what we did is while we got everyone to register, we had asked or left a space for clients to ask questions. So we'll start with those questions, Peter and Aaron, if you're all ready. And here goes the first one. Aaron, what are the trends that you see in human experience management today? And where do you see the roadmap?
Yeah, so Hannah, and I love that question, because I think at the very nature of that question is a real shift from human capital management to human experience management. And this is really the recognition that for many years, we talked about people who are our most important parts of each of our organizations. We talked about them like capital in the same way that we would financial capital. And actually, we have to look at the people experience really differently, because people are at the heart of each of our organizations. They are the ones who power innovation, power new trends, power the way that some of the unicorn companies in India become unicorn companies, or power the way that some of the public sector works as well. So we've really transitioned this to thinking about building human experience management solutions and platforms, not for HR administration, but really for employee or user empowerment and engagement. And that's at the real heart of the investment that SAP has made and continues to make into our SuccessFactors and our HXM suite. So really where we see this going is thinking about things like learning records and learning communities for life, really looking at portability of talent and talent marketplaces from organization to organization, from role to role, really leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to augment the capabilities and the knowledge that we have about the workforce and help us predict different ways of engaging and managing that workforce to help organizations continue to grow.
That's an interesting thought, I must say. Okay, so the next question, Peter, any input or any take that you would have on it?
I mean, I would echo those comments, and the only thing I would add is how we are designing for the future roadmap of SuccessFactors, taking these trends into account. And I think, one of the key differences is in the past, HR systems have looked at data and analytics that explains what has happened, and you get that by looking at how many people you've hired, how many have left, what are the performance scores, and we're shifting to understand, well, why are these things occurring? And it's a different type of information that you need, because you now have to speak to your employees and understand sentiment and trust and the more psychological side when it comes to managing HR. So we see that it's a really big pivot to go from what was traditionally operational data to what is this experiential data, and how can that inform HR and decisions moving forward.
True. It's going to be the game changer. I agree. Right. Okay. So I think in relation to that, the next question is, what do you want to know rather about digital transformation process and the impact on employee experience?
Sure. So, I think a really great and probably very pragmatic example of where digital transformation hits home for so many HR practitioners is in recruitment. And by that, I mean, if we think about the amount of paperwork that is generated in the process of generating an offer letter and generating the contracts for an employee and the salary packages and all of those things, and whether it's the postage to mail that or email it or do all of these things, and the amount of checking that has to happen with that, it's heavily people or human intensive work. With capabilities in the HXM suite, we have the ability to fully automate that. So it's automated, for example, automated offer letter production, automated acceptance, automated digital signature, and then automated kickoff for onboarding as well. And that's just one example where organizations can really benefit and cut down the amount of time that we spend on very small but very time-consuming tasks, and instead really think about the way that HR can add value to an organization really differently. Hopefully that answered the question. Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, I think post the pandemic, I've seen a lot of organizations digitizing their processes, and this is one of the great examples that I have come across. I agree.
And that gives a very interesting segue into our next couple of questions. So the first, I'll ask both of these together because you already alluded to both of them. So the first one is around recruitment, right? So it's where the HR process starts by recruitment. So what is SAP doing to innovate in the recruitment process? And the next that follows is the onboarding process. So that's the two questions that I wanted to combine. Specifically, what is it that SAP has already done, and what can customers expect going forward?
Absolutely. Peter, I might ask you to take the lead on this. I know you've done quite a bit of work with our global team on designing the product as well.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, if you're not aware, we're going through a huge overhaul of our user experience in front end, and that includes all of our modules with onboarding and recruiting. And while we've seen some initial phases of that launched a few weeks ago, the majority of that is coming in November. So there's a lot of really exciting work. And with regards to recruiting in particular and the UX around the application screening process. So the way you pull the applicants in, compare them side by side, and really providing a very modernized view for the recruiter on how to access that pipeline and those applicants. And that also includes changes to our mobile environment as well. As for onboarding, you may be aware that we've launched onboarding 2.0, and so there's massive R&D going into that. Very shortly, we'll be launching for the Canada region support for legislative reports in Canada, and then we'll also be looking at a couple of features that will be quite relevant to India. Things like mass hire. So the ability when you have big requisitions where there are many thousands of people applying, looking at managing that process, as well as rehire as well. So that's something else that we're looking at launching very shortly too.
Sorry, you wanted to add something, Emma?
No, all good, Mukesh. Go ahead.
Okay. So you did already mention, Peter, about the fact around the entire renovation of the user experience. So that kind of leads into a segue around new technologies that that a lot of customers are kind of experimenting with. For example, HR chatbots, voice-based search, and things like that. So what is SAP's strategy around chatbots and voice enablement of the applications? And what role do we expect AI and chatbots to play in the SuccessFactors roadmap going forward?
So first of all, we are very interested in looking at how machine learning in particular, as well as natural language processing, can augment the HR experience. For us, it's around 3 different areas. So we see that AI, ML will provide insights and predictions, but also automate routine tasks in HR so that HR BPs can move on to higher value work, but also to provide guidance and suggestions to folks in the business. We have already launched quite a number of proprietary ML features in the tool. So what we have available today are personalized learning recommendations, which helps people, which provides suggestions, kind of like Netflix, about what you might want to learn to support your career. Also really exciting things around some diversity and inclusion. So within our recruiting system, looking at removing gender bias from job ads. And so this is using some proprietary ML learning as well. What we're coming out with later this year in November is a new module called Opportunity Marketplace. And this is investing in people's learning and career development. It ties together learning, mentoring, career development, all under one area, under an agile org structure. And that will also be powered by machine learning by looking at people's capabilities, skills, and their aspirations, and starting to make those suggestions so that people can maybe consider something they haven't thought of before, or how can they follow other folks that have led a similar path in the past, and how can they replicate that for themselves. The last one that I think is really interesting, and we're just looking at this right now as well, is partnering with Velocity blockchain in terms of looking at how can we use the blockchain to look at things like credentialing and making sure that people's, whether it's their university skills or things like that, can be tracked in that type of manner. So lots of exciting stuff coming in this space. Probably the last thing to mention with regards to these emerging technologies is we do see a huge impact with chatbots. For those who have been following for a few years, we had a chatbot and we weren't quite happy with the technology. And so we're relaunching that in November, and that will come with 200 transactions and navigational points as the starting point later this year.
We have a lot of customers who ask around chatbots, so this is great news, Peter. We'll all look forward to it, definitely.
Yeah, there may have been a few on the call that were part of our beta process originally. As I said, we weren't quite happy with it, so we've re-engineered the technology, and what we've come up with is so amazing. So thank you for your patience as we got that right, and that will be coming out very shortly.
Absolutely. Okay, we all wait with bated breath. Next one, I think, Aaron, a topic very close to your heart. What initiatives are organizations taking around mental health in these trying times? So I know that SAP is doing a lot, but I think it's a good time to talk about it. Yes.
Absolutely, and it's very topical it's a very topical time to speak about it as well. I think if the last 18 months, 16 months, sorry, have taught us anything, it's that people are incredibly resilient, but mental health is something that we do need to address in the workforce. And it's something that that when we are all working from home becomes even more difficult to address. So what we're seeing a lot of organizations do, and here we are on a Zoom call, but many people are suffering from Zoom fatigue or Teams fatigue. So we're seeing organizations do some really simple things, like shortening meeting times from half an hour to 25 minutes. We ourselves at SAP have done that, just to give people a break in between meetings. We're also seeing organizations roll out more frequent employee pulse surveys. We ourselves do these now on every 2-month basis. We were running them once a month during most of 2020, and that gave us a really good insight, as opposed to just an annual survey. It gave us really great insight in terms of how people were doing with a simple 3 to 7, maybe 10 questions. And we could pinpoint where people were stressed at work, whether it was managing workload with family or other duties, whether it was based on where there were current flare-ups of the pandemic, or whether it was just overall burnout because people were just so fatigued from working from home. And this level of insight is something, as Peter was talking about earlier, most HR systems and most HR platforms really just look at that operational data. By layering in that experiential data, we are able to actually start looking at where we have real-time problems in an organization and start tailoring and delivering solutions, HR policies, HR practices that really address those. So again, for example, a lot of the feedback that we got internally at SAP from our own colleagues around the world was that we had Zoom fatigue. And that's why we instituted the 25-minute meeting or the 55-minute meeting, as opposed to a half an hour or an hour. So it's those kinds of small, but really practical and meaningful steps that organizations can take to help deal with mental health during these times. But one of the only ways that you can get there is by having that experiential data and that understanding of what's going on in your workforce at any point in time.
Absolutely, bang on. I mean, I have experienced SAP in the last 2 years that I've been around, and it's been wonderful. And the way organization has thought of employees and come up with great policies. And I'm sure it's all because of the data that you've been capturing and listening to the employees. So thank you for that. All right. So we've heard of this new trend. I wouldn't say a new trend about OKRs. And we have a question around it saying that, are we planning to introduce the OKR functionality in PMGM? And is there a way to measure ROI on LMS leveraging SuccessFactors? Maybe Peter, you would want to take that one up.
Yeah, thank you. So we have been looking at OKRs and very pleased to confirm that we are going to launch OKR functionality. I think Google actually made that quite relevant, so that they're running their organization, and perhaps that's why it's so topical these days. A lot of those end goals that OKR tries to achieve can largely be configured in your existing environment. But in saying that, we are launching specific capability, and we're looking at 2022 to get that out. So perhaps if you are looking at your 2022 goal and performance management process and cycle, it might be an idea to start looking into that. And what was the second part of the question? Was it?
The ROI on LMS, yes.
Oh, right, yeah. So ROI and LMS, I think a great way to start looking at that is through our WFA or SAC, our SAP Analytics Cloud system. Yeah, exactly. So the idea there is to look at learning outcomes versus business outcomes. So we've seen customers have some incredible insights by comparing things like the performance of the sales team with regards to sales outcomes versus learning completion rates, for example, or it might be something like comparing your average performance score and completion of learning, at a department level, for example. So a lot of the power there is by combining really quite transactional learning completion data and mixing that then with other outcomes within the system and then looking at those correlations. So it can be a very interesting insight, certainly.
I agree. I think the power of SEC is still to be explored. I think a lot of us need to know more in depth about it. So that's a great input. Thank you.
So by the way, I think there is a question on the chat, Peter, around UX improvements in this space, which is the LMS space. So what can customers expect as an improvement in the LMS space?
Very exciting stuff. So I'm glad you asked that question. So later this year, three major things. First, well, let me go back a step. So we've just finished upgrading the admin side of the system. So now we're looking at the learner side of the system, essentially. So there'll be a brand new learner page coming out in November this year, a learner landing page under the new UX design philosophy. We will also have what's called a new course home. So the way users interact with items will be significantly enhanced. And then also getting the LMS system to integrate to the new homepage UX. So the homepage is also upgrading and there'll be that feature as well. So that will provide a unified inbox within the new homepage, but then as they navigate into the learning module, they'll get that new landing page there and the new course interaction. So expect quite a significant facelift to the front end of that system later this year.
Great. I think we did have a couple of sessions around the changes coming up this year around UI UX. So we all look forward to that.
Thanks, Peter. I think the next question is a logical transition from learning and goals and performance management to succession planning. So, the question is twofold. One is, how do you think a customer can effectively implement the succession planning and development programs generally in any organization, and more specifically in an owner or a founder-led organization where it is kind of more top-down?
I'm happy to take this one.
Yes.
Sure.
Great. So I think, where I've seen succession planning really well done is when we identify the key and critical roles that we are really creating succession slates and succession plans for. And so that's something that's really important and it's unique to every organization. It's not always everyone in the org chart. In fact, if we try and do everyone in the org chart, it becomes really difficult to manage. But it really, I think, comes down to firstly identifying what those key roles in the business are and in the organization, what they are, and then thinking about the kind of culture that you want to have inside of your organization. Because having a culture of an open and transparent culture around succession and development means that you then are engaging employees and their managers or employees and their leaders at every step of the way, because succession planning is tightly aligned with development and performance and goal setting. So again, for organizations that really are thinking about the kind of culture that they want, the most successful ones with succession planning are the ones who identify the key roles, have a really open and transparent process around it, and really invest in the development and the goal setting for their people and manage that across the board. Now, obviously, for family-run businesses, this is always an interesting one because you have the family who's really personally invested in the success of the business. And this is why we typically will say that cascading goals is really critical, because those goals are coming directly from the founder, from the family, in terms of the direction that they want to set in the business. And by cascading goals from the top, you are able to allow individuals to align their own individual goals to the goals from the family. It's not necessarily goals from a corporation, it's goals from the family. And you can align these everyday activities into the bigger picture goals. And that, again, still, if you're thinking about the culture in a family-run business, there are key and critical roles that you will need successors for. And so by cascading goals, by having people align to those goals, you actually are able to identify who some of those potential successors might be for some of the key roles.
And if I can,
yeah, sorry, Mukesh.
If I can add to what you just said, Aaron, I think one of the biggest reasons why family-run organizations kind of who have seen success fall astray or face challenges when the next generation comes in terms of running the business is when succession planning is not done well. We've seen examples of this in India specifically so many times in so many different organizations that, the founder kind of grows the organization to a successful organization, takes it public maybe even. And then the next generation, when they come in, because of poor succession planning, there is infighting and there is a lot of issues from that perspective, which kind of puts the organization back 5 years or 10 years at times, which then takes a lot of effort and energy and resources to come back to where they were before all of this started. So it makes it incredibly critical for founder-led organizations to have a clear strategic plan for succession plan for those key roles that Aaron spoke about. Aaron, there is a question on the chat regarding the chatbot itself. The question is a little critical, or the feedback. I will not say it's a question, but it's a feedback that is critical. It says that they've been hearing about chatbot AI as work in progress for almost 2 years, but they've not seen anything as of now. So you said now November, right? So how, I'm assuming that it is pretty confident that we will deliver that in November.
That's right. So we've had an updated set of chatbot AI and ML capabilities that have been in a public beta for 2 release cycles now. And the planned public release for that will be our November release of 2021. And as Peter said earlier, initially that chatbot will be across 200 different transaction screens in Successfactors. With the power of AI and ML, we will quickly be able to train the machine to scale across other application pages, other transaction pages very rapidly. So we've had some incredible work with customers in that public beta, including in our region in Asia Pacific and Japan. Right. And that is nearing delivery for public general availability in November. Thanks,
Aaron. There is also a question about storyboard or enabling storyboard in the chat. Anshuman asks, we face a lot of issues in enabling storyboard. Partners are not recommending, saying that it's an unstable product. So what are your thoughts, comments on that?
Yeah, I think we should drill into some of those issues that people are facing. Generally speaking, we're not seeing that it is unstable. And maybe 2 releases ago, it's now upgradable via the admin tool. So it should be relatively seamless. There is a prerequisite of you having IAS as your authentication. But assuming you have that, it should be relatively painless. But if there are any issues, please reach out and we'll work with you to solve those, because we're not seeing general unstability trends at this stage.
Okay.
So just to add to that, Mukesh, People Analytics is definitely just a year and a half old product. And we're coming up with initiatives in the CE team. So we are trying to launch a campaign where we will try to ensure customers are more aware of it, they are enabled for it, we support them during their implementation and take them through the journey. So that's the plan.
One thing I'd add, if you haven't seen it, it is so far advanced from the existing reporting system, and it's a free upgrade. I mean, you may have to enable IES, which could have some technical back-end stuff. But besides from that, it's part of your subscription. It is so far forward, the analytics, the reporting. Yeah, we're very proud, and there's more to come in that space as well. So definitely have a look if you haven't already.
I agree.
Okay, so there is a question around a specific industry and as well, which is, how does SAP help to evolve HR as a prominent function within the educational sector? So are we doing something along with colleges or universities around SuccessFactors and evolving HR as a function within those universities as well? From that, HXM maybe.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this. So in a university system, there's so much, there's just a fundamentally different way of looking at employment. We often will have concurrent employment, concurrent roles for administrative staff. You also have concurrent employment for professors, as well as tenure tracking for professors as well. So SuccessFactors allows for this with things such as concurrent employment, being able to manage multiple jobs with different pay rates, etc., at the same time. We also allow through the metadata framework the ability to look at tracking other items like number of academic articles published, for example, which might help in somebody's tenure tracking. So all of that is I suppose the run and operate of the reality in the educational sector. But realistically, if we look at academia more holistically, or the university sector more holistically, what we are seeing are these educational institutions really investing in their people in a very different way. Not just their professors, but really in the admin staff, because the job markets are so hot right now. So by delivering really meaningful opportunities, really meaningful performance, total rewards capabilities, more like the private sector, we're seeing more and more universities start treating their workforce like a private sector workforce in terms of total rewards. And that's really where the power of SuccessFactors can come in, looking at the different kinds of total rewards, the compensation packages that are offered, and really that deep analytical capability to deliver across the higher education sector.
Okay, thanks. Abhijit, would you want to unmute yourself and share your comment? Because I got a direct message from him regarding an issue with the IIS connection with on-premise AD. So he says that there are no videos available, and the information that is available online is also very sketchy. So maybe that's a feedback that we need to take up. And Abhijit, I also recommend that you reach out to your, Abhijit, is that
yes,
you?
Yes,
please, go on.
So the thing is that I have been communicating with our CE as well, and our partner as well. We have been struggling to actually get storyboard since last October, but some chat where I just read about that the way partners are telling other clients, even we got the same information, that it's a bit unstable and the information is not available. Even I tried finding myself on internet, on SAP KBAs and all, but I could not find the correct videos or even the KBAs where I can really connect on our ADFS, on-premise ADFS, MS ADFS. So I've given last time feedback to Hemlata as well when we started this particular our SIG forum as well, that we should take up that particular as an initiative to discuss, understand the concerns as well around people antique storyboard.
Right.
That's a key thing for everybody of us in India. So in SAP, we are promoting, or SAP is promoting about storyboard. It's a fantastic thing wherever you've seen as a good tool for all HR teams. But unfortunately, we are not able to get that on board.
So if I can just maybe make sure I got this right, some of the issue here is how we connected to ADFS, and there seems to be a lack of, that you're struggling to find some help around ADFS integration specifically. Is that right?
Sorry, can you come in once again?
I'm just confirming that the issue is that you're struggling finding help to integrate with ADFS, and that you're seeking some support to set IAS up with. Okay, all right. So we can take that as an action to make sure you've got that support.
So Peter, another issue on the ADFS connection. This is Bharani. Another issue on the ADFS connection is what I'm just experiencing is. See, with the Employee Central, we are in a position to get in the messages and other things going to the Outlook and other things areas. But when we integrated LMS, then it was completely, you have to completely redo it again. And when we redo it again, it doesn't have kind of happen at all. So that is another issue which we are looking at. See, one integration is very easy. This one which SAP can think, SuccessFactors can think about. So we cannot be going on integrating, item by item into our AD and other things. That doesn't make sense, right? You can very well integrate it in a single this one and try to then connect it between modules within SuccessFactors. So that's a better way of looking at it, rather than every time every product you try to onboard, you need to again work on the connections and other things, and things does not work the way it is supposed to be. And we have raised issues with SAP with not much support.
I think that's good feedback. I'm not familiar with the LMS integration issues, but I'll work with Hemlata to look into that.
I can share you. I will share with Hema on this one,
yes,
the
please.
incident, whatever
Perfect.
I have.
That would be great. Thank you.
Well, it gives me a good segue into the next question, which is around LMS and integrating LMS with MOOCs. I think there was the question was, does SAP have any plan to increase the delivered integration, sort of plug and play with any of the current MOOCs that are available within the LMS module? And if yes, can you also share the names of some of these MOOCs that we can expect in the future?
So our principal partner is Skillsoft. I'm not sure whether you're across their capability, but they provide an amazing library of content, and we certify integration between Skillsoft and LMS. I will have to take that question on notice unless there's other folks that can answer, because I'm not familiar with the other ones, but we can certainly find out and get back to you.
Okay, so it will be great if you can share it with Hema, so that we can then share it with this entire.
Yeah, if anybody wants to integrate with the LinkedIn Learning, I can help them, because we have recently done that, and we did a huge struggle in getting that integrated. So we could successfully do that. That is number one. Number two, also we did an integration with LMS to the what do we call that, WebEx. So that is another this one which is not a straightforward item. There are tricks of the trade to see that it is working within SAP. So if anybody is interested in those areas who are trying and not figuring it out, you can reach out to me.
So maybe we can also invite Bharani to one of our sessions, actually, to share how they have done the LinkedIn integration at some point in time as well. Maybe Hema, you can make a note of that.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. That's
I'll just add as well.
Yeah.
Because someone mentioned WebEx, we have launched integration now with Zoom, and Microsoft Teams will be coming out in the next release. So for that VLMS experience, virtual instructor led.
Thank you. So there is another question on the chat with regards to enhancements that we can expect to make Employee Central more self-service for managers and HR, right? So the question.
Oh, sorry, Mukesh.
No. So the comment is that smaller HRMS tools in the market provide a consolidated team view for managers and make it easy to change, transactional information for the managers. So is that something that customers can expect anytime soon is the question, I guess.
It is, and a large part of that was actually delivered in our May release just recently, and the next wave of it will be delivered in our November release. So as hopefully everybody on the call is aware, we've invested really significantly on enhancing and really rethinking our user experience and our human experience for interaction points for not just HR admin screens, but for employees and managers. So I would encourage everyone, if you haven't looked at your preview instance for the most current release for the refreshed homepage and some of the transactions that we've delivered in it, to really take a look at that. And you'll see more of that. In fact, the majority of it roll out in our November release as well.
Thanks, Arun. So Hema, can you meanwhile also share where can customers find out what got released in May? I'm assuming that all of them already know where, but still, just in case.
I'll post the link on communities where we find all the information.
Yeah, that'll be great, because that then becomes a single point of place where people can go and find. Looks like the November release is going to be a major one, Peter. So depending upon whatever you just said and Aaron has said. So anything else that you want to add to what is expected in November?
I have to say, it is going to be a massive release. One of the biggest items to come last month was our new EC time module. So that was a big effort. But in November, we've got a lot to deliver around the new UX, around the opportunity marketplace, digital assistant. A lot of this information is on the Roadmap Explorer if you're curious to jump in and sort of get a bit of a preview of what that looks like. But yeah, there's some exciting stuff certainly coming out later this year.
I agree.
Cool. So I think that brings to the last question that, or rather penultimate question that we had already received from customers. Hema, would you want to ask that? And then maybe we open the floor for anyone else to ask any questions or comments.
Sure. I think overall, Aaron and Peter, where do we see SuccessFactors heading even in the next couple of years, and some of the key areas that we are going to focus on? So what is our vision for SF going ahead?
Sure. Hema, as it's a similar question as we started,
yes,
which is really a refreshed view on the experience, the user experience, the human experience of the platform itself. So that for us is something that's not something you just do once. That's something that is constantly evolving as consumer behavior and consumer patterns evolve in terms of how we access and consume information. So that's a journey that we and all of our customers and organizations will continue to be on together. Learning management and the ability to have portable learning records will be incredibly important for SAP. We are heavily investing in the learning management space, and a revamped view of what talent really looks like, and thinking about talent marketplace, portable talent, and taking that along with you for your career, and that really links together with learning management. So it sounds like a few things, but it actually represents, I think, quite visionary work on the part of SAP, the ability to have a truly standards-based way of not just managing people, but actually creating and cultivating the employment experiences or the workforce experiences for people in the future. Peter, anything to add?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think and the way we're designing for this stuff is fundamentally changed. So in the past, we'd sit down, look at the needs of the recruiting team or the learning team, and we'd look at what they need. But when I say we turn it around, what we are now doing is looking purely at the motivations and the behaviors of employees and making sure that they're empowered to take ownership of their own career. And when we started going down this track, we started looking at some of the big milestones, like, what was your experience on the first day of the job? Or what was your experience if you were to be promoted to manage people for the first time? But even our thinking has progressed quite significantly. So as we're looking at our roadmap, it's more about those everyday things that employees are concerned about, like, did I use my strengths today? Will I be recognized for this job that I've done? Am I inspired? And it's these type of micro almost events that are happening. And so when you think about, as designers of HR software, how that fundamentally changes the user interface, the way we design the features, and dismantling these siloed modules to have these experiences, this is not a journey that's going to happen overnight. And which is why we've moved all of our R&D to revamp our UX to start there. And then moving forward, you'll see that this is the approach, this experience-centered approach is what we're taking moving forward.
Absolutely. Yes. Do you have any other questions, Mukesh?
I have one, but before I ask, I'll just like to open up the floor to anyone who would like to ask a question. You can unmute yourself and ask a question. We still have about 10 minutes to go.
I have three questions with me. This is Bharani. See, one is this adoption training. Yeah, adoption training, basically, see, one of the things which is already happening is in terms of getting the admins on board. Okay, so which is very good. Okay, another thing what I am really seeing missing is, see, the admins, basically HR admins are coming, but there is a huge community of HR folks who actually do master data updates and other this one. See, today my biggest challenge what I am seeing is these people don't do the updates properly. They either do it wrongly or they not do it on time. And this actually impacts heavily on the experience. Okay, so this is you find it out only when you really process the data. Okay, that is when people figure it out, and you really go helter skelter when a salary is being run. Okay, and so much of this one happens during this time. So, is there any kind of this one where SAP has something to do with sensitizing the HCM folks and making them more cognizant about how they need to conduct themselves? Because these were something which in SAP days I remember doing it. Okay, which was a big issue during 3.1 and other things. People were not diligent in managing the data. The material masters used to be screwed up. People used to make a lot of mistakes, and we used to find it very difficult to this one. Today things have changed. Okay, is there something to do on that side from SuccessFactors side?
Yeah, so there is, and we have inbuilt help for the vast majority of transactional screens, but SAP also makes available an additional product and service offering from SAP Enable Now, which really can contextualize and allow you to build for your organization your own in-application help to really ensure that the HR admins or the people doing the data entry have the up-to-date training delivered inside the application in context of the transaction they're doing. So that's certainly something that's available. And another piece, which is something that we make available through our analytics cloud, is really just an ongoing, and this is kind of the best practice, just an ongoing use of making sure that you're checking data for data integrity. And that's those are things that will be different and unique to each organization, but that's where you can use the analytics cloud or the SuccessFactors reporting really to check on the data integrity that's being input in the system. I suppose
sorry to stop you. See, I am aware of these things which are as a part of the product. What I am asking about is beyond the product. How can you make the people to really align to the product? Okay, see, aligning is one of the things. This training and other things are available. Very good. Now, like this, I already quoted in my question itself. So these are all available, but beyond that, there are people who are not disciplined. And does SF has some kind of this one where to make people understand that this is so important? What is that? Is the consequence of they not doing it right needs to be available for them, and that I'm not seeing it anywhere.
And Bharat, that's as a platform provider, that's really just not something that SAP delivers. That's really something that is up to each organization to work with the employees and their workforce to ensure that they understand the roles that they have and the criticality of the steps in the work that they do. But that's not something where SAP as a service offering.
Got it. Okay, and another point which you were telling regarding this offer letter, the format is not that easy in terms of trying to do it like an MS Word. There are many things which does not work the way it is supposed to be. If you do a copy paste, then the complete format goes for a toss. Okay, you need to really type every word inside the this one, no, like whatever format creator. And similar way, when you try to put in some kind of images and other things, they get distorted, and those kind of stuff basically happens today in whatever success factors you have. It's not so easy as what you're talking about in terms of it automatically generates, but it does not generate what we want. That is the feedback.
Have you put this up, Barney, in the influence portal? Okay. So let's spread the word. If this is something that's going to help everyone and all our customers, it'll be best if we can get enough votes on it so that we have the right eyeballs on such kind of pointers. So thank you for that.
Maybe before we end this meeting, Bharani, if you have already posted it on the influence portal, if you can just post the link on the chat right now, so that everyone else in this room can look at it, and if they feel that this is a
I need to figure that out. I'll just put that and I'll send it towards you so that
sure,
maybe,
you can send it to Hema and we can, or me, and we can circulate it as well.
We are more than happy. Thank you.
So I'll also add that with offer generation, we've got some really great new capability coming out regarding personalizing that, putting logic behind it, where you can start adding in paragraphs and removing sentences, so significantly enhancing what's already there. And I also know copying and pasting from Word into web forms can have some tricks, but I think if you paste special, you can remove the HTML tags. There might be other things, but we can look at that for you. And just one thing with your previous comment as well, I think if you haven't looked at some of the new configuration migration options that have only just been delivered, this makes it super easy to start testing in your test environment and then very easily migrating over. In the past, it was almost a duplication of effort. So that might be an opportunity for you to have a bit of a sandbox or playpen on some of these things and then migrate that over to production once you've done the test.
And the third
so we still have time for...
this one. So is there any step which SAP is taking to increase in terms of the skilled resources? Because we are finding it really difficult to find resources who can support this.
Sorry, I didn't fully hear the question.
Arun, see, today what is happening is to have people supporting success factors, we do need them to have a success factor certification. Okay, and today we don't have not much resources are available for the certified resources are available. And is there any steps SAP is taking to increase the number of certifications so that we are getting more in the market?
Yes, there are, and I have a team that works in my organization that is working very proactively in India to look at partners, both at boutique partners as well as larger, more established partners, and really putting in place a renewed effort at increasing the number of certifications module by module for SuccessFactors. So that's been work that we kicked off about 4 or 5 months ago, and we will continue to do, because we do recognize that in India we do need to increase the number of certified consultants that are available on the market.
Right.
Thanks. Any other questions? We still have, I think, time for one last question. Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
I think, let's wrap it up.
Hi, this is Satish from Flipkart.
Yes, Satish.
2 questions basically. One is following the question from Bharti, right? One of the things that most of our admins, find it hard to manage is managing the master data. Example, if I take a cost code or a location, right? You create and then you deactivate, but then there are so many users still tagged to it. There is no error that SF throws. It requires a lot of manual checks before we try to deactivate the master data. Anything that SF is doing to make sure that you can't deactivate if a particular user is still tagged to that, or even things like you change the department name, but the name doesn't reflect on employee info unless you pass a dummy transaction onto job info, right? There is a complete disconnect with the master data and the master data codes that are being displayed on employee. So anything that we could expect to streamline the data there.
So just a quick thing before you respond, Peter. I'm sorry about that, but I know that Aaron has to leave in like 2 minutes for his next one. So maybe Aaron, if you can quickly, share any last comments, and then you can drop off while Peter can answer this question as well.
Oh, sure, Mukesh, and thank you. I think what I'd love to say to this group is these are exactly the kinds of sessions and the feedback that we want to continue to hear from you. We recognize that there's always improvement and always continuous innovation that we need to be doing in our product and our platform offerings to continue to earn your trust and to continue to earn your business. And that's something that we take very seriously. So whilst Peter and I might not have all of the answers for you today, we will endeavor to get any of the answers that we can to your open questions. But really the vibrancy, the passion of this community, and you providing us that feedback on an ongoing basis is just so critical to us delivering the best products, solutions, and services that we can to you. So I do want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us this morning. I unfortunately do need to drop off for another customer engagement, but I've really learned a lot and appreciated my time with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for contributing, and thank you so much for your time. Look forward to similar sessions. Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Sorry, Peter. Now you can
yes, Peter. Sorry.
Answer the question.
No, that's fine. I'll need to take that question on notice because I understand the crux of it, but what I will add as a partial answer is that we have a new mass change feature coming in November, which significantly overhauls how you can change attributes or fields or things against existing employee records. So again, I know it's not an exact response to the problem you've got. We'll take that away and have a look. But I think that ability to have a much enhanced mass change feature will help a long way as well.
I think the mass change mandates organizations with position management to go live in November, I guess, right? But there are quite a few organizations without a position management. And also, I think the roadmap for mass change on MDFs is still a long way. Very simple example that I could think of is we have got an enhancement on timesheets. Good, we plan to roll it out. But if we have to enable managers to do shift allocation, they have to go to each and every profile and do that, and they would say, "Okay, I don't want to do this now." Right. So I think there are enhancements, good features coming up, but the supporting framework to adopt for those enhancements is still missing.
Thanks. Yeah. I think it's
yes.
It's a valid feedback. Thanks for that. Anyone else? I see a question from
one last thing for me is, along with the roadmap when we are publishing, if we can also publish how many of these new features are part of the influence and hence it has been implemented, maybe that would boost all the customers to look at the influence portal and then look for the roadmaps or influence SAP to bring new features. I think at this point of time, we as a customers, when we get the data from CSM or our sales partners, we don't get to see these numbers. Like, to be frank, I've been partnered with Successfactors for almost 6 years now, but then till date, I've never had a conversation with my SAP point of contacts about how many enhancements have come through influence portal here. Which kind of
that should be something we can find out, and we'll maybe in another forum like this we might be able to share some statistics about the percentage of roadmap that's influenced from that platform. So we can find that out for you.
Yeah, thank you. If that can be added as a part of general newsletter for all the customers, maybe it influences them also to use this portal.
Sure. I think, Bharani, your question also, I think, got addressed. There is a question around, can SuccessFactors be integrated with GRC?
Integrated with what, sorry?
Without GRC integration.
Governance, risk and control. See, basically today for our IT GC controls, what is happening is we are being asked, like whether the right user has the right access, whether the right roles are given to the right users. And if admin is using this particular role, like is he doing the changes what he's supposed to do only? Okay, there is an audit which we need to go and show evidence for all this one. See, today it is a roundabout that we need to go at multiple places to show it within SuccessFactors. So basically GRC has that ability to do it within SAP, but whether it can be integrated with SuccessFactors, in fact, I didn't get an answer even from SAP on that. Okay, just I thought I will just check with you, or otherwise, if you have already built it as a part of SuccessFactors, if it is a part and which we are not knowing, you can let us know.
I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to take that on notice and get back to you on that one.
No problem. In SAP, what basically happens is every quarter there will be a user access review which will go to the manager. The manager has to verify and say, yes, these are the accesses which is supposed to be held by my subordinate, and he is to send an acceptance. So this is evidence which we need to produce to the auditors so that they get calm. Similar way, like any changes are being done by the admins, like the HR manager has to really look above and look at whether they have done the right changes. Because if somebody is changing a salary wrongly, then it completely goes for a toss, right? So those are the things which we are trying to look at, controls.
Sure, Varani. I think we are on the dot of the hour. And Varani, I'll connect with you offline and others whose questions we've not been able to ask. But thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Peter, for staying back to answer the remaining questions and being a part of this call. I think it's really contributed to some of the discussions that we've had today. And thanks, Alex, for helping us get this session rolled off. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Mukesh, for joining the call.
Thank you, Mukesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mukesh.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in today.
Take care. Bye. Stay safe.
You too. Bye.